everybody. Welcome back to Carrie's Corner. We're going to continue with our reading of the Pushcart War by Jean Merrill, illustrated by Ronnie Solbert. There you go. And we're in the middle of one of the chapters where the president simply grinned and replied, "Don't be a truck." This response, although it lost the president the support of the trucking industry, greatly increased his popularity with both automobile drivers and pedestrians. While English teachers did not approve of the president speaking in such a slangy way, the majority of voters were impressed with the president's detailed knowledge of what was going on in every city of the country. The general public had mixed feelings about the children's part in the Pushcart War. A few agreed with Big Mo that shooting at trucks was hoodlum behavior and should be severely punished. But the majority of people took the attitude that children had always had pea shooters and that the pea tack shooters were only a passing craze. A respected child psychologist of the period said that in attacking the trucks, the children were expressing resentment of parents who pushed them around. "It's a classic case of the little guy against the big guy," said the psychologist. The psychologist's advice was that it was better on the whole for the children to be killing trucks than their parents. To forbid them to shoot at trucks, he suggested, might create worse problems. This made parents think twice about taking a firm stand about the trucks. The pushcart peddlers did not know what to make of the children's campaign. It bothered Harry the hot dog that any 8-year-old could get away with flattening a truck while he had to stand idly by. He was much put out by a rumor that a 9-year-old boy in the East Harlem section of the city had killed almost as many trucks in 1 week as Harry had killed in the opening week of the pea shooter campaign. "Whose war is this anyway?" Harry demanded. "They're making a joke of it," he complained at a meeting that General Anna had called to discuss the situation. "This war is a serious business," Harry said. "To pushcart peddlers, a matter of life and death, and these kids are making it like a big picnic, a big joke. They are laughing at us." "Some joke," said Morris the florist. "Killing thousands of trucks? Let them joke, I say." "Why is it a joke?" asked Papa Peretz. "Maybe they seriously don't like the trucks. A big truck hits a little kid. Is that a joke? I tell you, kids today are very smart." "All those clubs," Harry said. "They are making Frank the Flower look silly. They're even making fun of his hat." Maxie Hammerin laughed. "For 20 years I have made fun of Frank the Flower's hat, and he does not care. He is proud of that hat." "Also," said Morris the florist, "the club members are writing letters to Frank the Flower in jail, and it is nice to get letters when you are confined." Chapter 18, The Retreat of the Trucks and Rumors of a Buildup on the Fashion Front. There's a little picture there of a magazine that says Chic. Although the children's pea shooter campaign may have been, as many people said, a craze that would have died as suddenly as it had started, the truck drivers could not afford to wait and see. At the height of the children's campaign, the casualties were so heavy that the truck companies had to take their trucks off the streets. The retreat of the trucks made it very pleasant for the people who wanted to drive around the city doing errands or little sightseeing. It was delightful to see taxis zipping around corners again, making U-turns and snaking in and out among the woman drivers as gaily as they had in the days before the trucks had taken over the streets. Even the women drivers seemed to enjoy it. After years of battling with the trucks, dodging the taxis seemed like a game. One sporting lady even blew a kiss to a taxi driver who clipped off her fender and called out to him, "Well done!" This so charmed the taxi driver that he towed the lady to a garage, bought her a new fender, took her out to dinner, and married her. Indeed, everyone was in the best of spirits that first day that the trucks did not appear on the streets. It was like a holiday. The buses were loaded with ladies out shopping for new hats and perfume. Fathers took the afternoon off from their offices to take their children to the zoo. Teachers gave no homework. There were picnics in the parks, and the movie houses and bowling alleys were crowded. All the pushcarts were back on the streets, and the pushcart peddlers did more business on that day than they had for 19 years. The whole city was jubilant. That means happy, jubilant. Except for the truck drivers, of course. The three were quick to see that it would be dangerous to keep the trucks off the streets for more than a few days. Once people became accustomed to having the freedom of the streets again, they would object to the return of the trucks. The three agreed that it was imperative to get the trucks back on the streets as fast as possible. Big Mo called the mayor and demanded that something be done to make the streets safe for trucks. "This is very bad for business," said Big Mo. "Another week of this and I will be out of business." Mayor Cud was naturally sympathetic. He summoned the city council, and the council proposed to put a tax on tax sold to anyone under the age of 21. It was thought that if this tax were high enough, the council set the rate at $1 per pound of tax, this would discourage children from buying tax in any quantity. This proposal, however, was not enough to satisfy the truck drivers. What guarantee was there, they demanded, when the newspapers published the proposals, that persons over 21 might not take it into their heads to shoot at truck tires? Frank the Flower, Big Mo pointed out to Mayor Cud, was over 21. "But he is a crackpot," said the mayor. "Maybe," said Big Mo. "But listen to this. My wife tells me that a very fancy store on Fifth Avenue uptown put in its window 2 days ago a Frank the Flower hat for ladies, and the price of that hat is $29.95. $29.95 for a crackpot hat?" said Mayor Cud. "That's not the point," said Big Mo. "The point is that the store already cannot keep up with the orders for that $29.95 hat." "What do you mean, already?" asked Mayor Cud. "I mean already before today's paper, in which I see a full-page advertisement for this hat," said Big Mo. "Look in the paper," said Big Mo. "There is a big drawing of the hat, and it says underneath, 'A real traffic stopper.' It also says, 'Do truck drivers whistle at you? This will really flatten them.'" "Also," said Big Mo, "I should warn you that a fashion magazine, which my wife reads, has on its cover this week the movie star Wenda Gambling in this same $29.95 Frank the Flower hat. And I would like to know what you will say when your wife asks you if she can have a $29.95 hat such as Wendy Gambling is wearing." "My wife does not ask my advice about hats," said Mayor Cud. "Naturally," said Big Mo. "That is the danger. Children are bad enough, but if the ladies get into this, we are finished." The mayor saw the danger. He called the city council together again, and the council amended the new tax ruling to cover the sales of tax to persons of all ages. Let's continue a little bit into chapter 19, the tax and the British ultimatum. The tax, as all students of American history know, was the most unpopular tax in the history of New York City. It caused revolution in the city schools and almost brought England into the war. The citizens of New York protested at once that the tax was undemocratic. They said it discriminated unfairly against the users of tax, as opposed to the users of screws, nails, bolts, and pins. Users of screws, nails, bolts, and pins, and that took in nearly every household in the city, objected. Here's some signs about the tax protest. The tax versus the tax. A tax you put on tax. The tax as the tax users. Their argument was that if the mayor and the city council could put a whopping tax on tax, there was nothing to keep them from putting a whopping tax on screws, nails, bolts, and pins anytime they chose. The pushcart peddlers had no special interest in tax, as they relied exclusively on pins for the manufacture of their ammunition. However, they supported the protest against the tax as a matter of principle. Mr. Jerusalem risked arrest by giving away boxes of tax to his customers rather than charge the hated tax. He was picked up by the P-Tax squad, but the police commissioner refused to jail him on the grounds that the council ruling put a tax only on tax that were sold. The police commissioner said that if Mr. Jerusalem wanted to go broke giving away tax, that was his own business. Teachers were among the hardest hit by the tax, and they went on strike and protest. You could not have a bulletin board without tax, they claimed, and you could not run a New York City classroom without a bulletin board, they said, or things got hopelessly out of hand. 12,000 teachers carrying "No tax, no teachers" signs picketed Mayor Cud's office. And while they were picketing, the city schools had to be closed. With the schools closed, children of school age were on the streets from morning to night, and the shooting of trucks increased accordingly. As many of the children had been making their P-Tax with pins all along, they couldn't see that it made any difference. The tax did not bother them seriously. The strongest objection to the tax naturally came from England, who was at the time the world's largest producer of tax. Most of the tax used in New York City came from England. England charged that the New York City tax was designed to cut England out of the American tax market and was in fact a violation of Section 238 of the British-American International Tax Agreement. The British ambassador protested in the strongest terms to the president in Washington and suggested that his country might have to intervene directly in the fighting in New York if the tax was not at once repealed. The president acted promptly. There's the British person, I think, objecting. He called Mayor Cudd to the White House and warned him that unless the tax law was repealed within 24 hours, he would have to send federal troops to keep order in the city. Mayor Cudd had to ask the city council to repeal the tax he had asked them to pass the week before. The lifting of the tax was celebrated by the wildest spree of tax buying in the history of the city. Over 800,000 pounds of tax were sold on the first day of the repeal. The mayor, in alarm, hastily improvised the pea blockade in hopes of averting a mass outbreak of pea shooting. And that brings us to the end of our reading today. We're going to start tomorrow or next time we get together, chapter 20, the pea blockade. So that brings us to the end of our reading of the Pushcart War for today. See you next time. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day and week. Bye-bye. Bye.